So today we will practice 70 synonyms and antonyms. MCQs that are the most repeated questions in HAT, NTS, GAT, and PTS. MCQ is remote. What does remote mean? Mostly I've seen in jobs, right? They use the word remote job. So what does it mean, remote job? Remote job is mostly when you work from a distance, far away from the office, or you don't have like you don't physically go in the office space. You work from home. Like it's a huge, there's a distance between the office and your home. So that means this whole distance is called remote. So another word for remote is distance. Okay. Savage means someone who takes revenge, someone who is having a grudge on you. Mean is also this. It's also similar to savage. Mean is someone who is rude to you. That's who is rude. Okay. We have the second one is detest. What does detest mean? Detest means when you hate something. Like for example, this girl, she doesn't like her breakfast. So you can say that you hate it, and to an extent. Like it's a more extreme extent of hate is just like average word, and then when you have to make it more, you have to emphasize it, you use the word detest. Okay, so detest, the synonym of detest is hate. Argue means when you're fighting, and this one are quite easy words, so I don't have to elaborate them. Okay, next is gracious. What does gracious means? Gracious means someone who is, yes, that's what you think, of someone who is kind, who is decent. Okay, we can't use the word pretty. Pretty is someone who is beautiful. So gracious is someone who is pleasant, who is kind. So they both are quite different words. So we use gracious. The synonym of gracious, another same similar word, is pleasant. Okay, just like this guy is quite pleasant to the old guy. Predict means, for example, there's an election going on and you don't know who is going to win. Is it going to be Trump or is it going to be Hilton? You don't know. So what do? You predict who's going to win. So predict means you just give a guess. Like it's like another word for guessing. You're guessing who's going to win. Okay, so what is another word for guessing is foretell. Kin is someone who is related to your blood. It could be your father, your mother, anything that is related to your blood. So it can't be a friend, because a friend is not someone that's related to you. It should be a relative. Another word, pensive, means someone who is deep in thoughts. Like this girl, you can see in her, she's in her pensive thoughts. So instead of using the word thoughtful, you can use the word pensive. So the correct word is thoughtful. Oppress is someone that you go against with. Cage is someone who is stuck in a cage, like a prison. So it can't be that. Happy, we know that. We already know this word. It's quite simple. Banish means someone, for example, you take someone away from a country or a place as an official punishment. Like, a person that creates, it's mostly used in all times, when someone who creates a crime. You have mostly seen in movies, they say that I banish you away from the land. So it is similar to that. The meaning of banish means you actually give a punishment to someone for creating a crime. So another word for it is exile. Okay, it's the same meaning. Fraud means like trying to scam someone. It's a very common word. Um, so for example, you can see this guy, he's trying to scam her with the food. So another word for it is called imposter. Okay, so the word malcontent means someone who is a troublemaker. Saccharine means something sweet. It's mostly used in this term is mostly used in biology. Arid means something that is dry. Okay. Quit is something that you leave or you resign. When you say I quit my job, so it's something that you resign with. Okay, and yeah. So for example, if you want to use the word saccharine in a sentence, we say, "Wow, it's such a saccharine music." Like how we say such a sweet music, right? So just replace sweet with saccharine. Drag is like when you drag something with so much difficulty. So you can also say the word in here. It means like you're pulling it, but you can't use the word pull, because pull is just a general word. Like you just say I pull out the door. But if you you do something with a force, like how this guy is pulling this heavy bag with such a deep force, so you say drag. I'm dragging the bag. Or for example, you have a suitcase which is quite heavy. Okay, suitcase quite heavy. So what do you say? You say, I'm dragging my suitcase. Okay, so we used to emphasize something with great difficulty. That's how we use the word drag in a sentence. Jovial means someone that's quite happy, just like this girl. She's quite happy, she's cheerful, something that is related with positiveness. Okay, so this word is related with something positive. So it can't be incredulous, it can be merry. Merry also means that someone who is happy, so it has to be merry. Revolting, it has no relation with it. Dizziness means someone who is, having nausea. That's another word for dizzy. So jovial and merry. So we can use this in a sentence. When you say that I'm quite happy today, you can say the word I'm quite merry today, or you can say I'm quite jovial today. So it's the same meaning. Indifferent. Indifferent is when you don't give your own opinions. For example, this is team A and team B. Okay, so team A says that we wanna go skiing, and team B says we wanna go play football, and then there is you in between. So you're like, I'm not giving my opinions. I'm fine with both. Indifference means you're neutral because you don't give any comments on it. You're not on each side, so you're quite neutral in between. Simulate means something that you copy. Like, for example, this girl's on her phone, her daughter is also on the phone, she's putting the pen in her mouth, she's also putting the pen in her mouth. So what is she trying to do? What is this little girl trying to do? She's trying to copy her. So in other words, what's another word, a better word than copy? You say the word imitate. It's also the same word as simulate. Imitate, like she's imitating her expression, she's imitating her actions. Okay. Charisma means someone who is happy, the one who has joy in her face. Like, for example, you can see in her face she's quite active, she's quite joyful. So what's another word for charisma? It will be charm. She got a lot of charm in herself. Okay. Courage means someone who is brave. So charisma is not it's not necessary. You don't have to have the courage of, you don't have to have the characteristic of courage. So charisma and charm are the same meaning. Okay. Next we have apportion. Apportion means to divide. Okay. So we can't use the word decide. Decide means, when you make a decision. We can't use the word cut, even though it's similar as divide. The reason is that in cut, right, we just cut the piece. But when you say a portion is like actually dividing it and then giving it in separate portion. Like, you give it to him, to her, to the baby. So you actually divide it into different portions. Okay. Cut simply means just to, just cut the knife through it. But a portion means you actually divide it. Okay. And then you put it on the plate. Okay, for everyone. So we use the word divide, because divide is actually related to, the process of giving everyone equally the amount. Generic means something which you don't have anything, it's not specific. So for example, if someone asks you which type of shoes do you like, so you're gonna go like, I like all types of shoes. So you see, you're not specific, unlike someone who says, if I ask someone who's specific, he's gonna say, I like green color shoes, I like yellow color shoes. So that is a specific one. So another word for generic means you like it all, everything in general. So qualm. Okay, so what do you think the word is of qualm is? First, let's see the definition of impunity. Impunity means to free someone. For example, you're in the jail for quite a long time, for example, 5 years, and then finally you got justice after it. So that's called impunity, when you release someone from jail or in captivity. So that's called impunity. Persevere means when you carry on with so much difficulty. Like, for example, the snail wants to go up the hill, but he's being blocked by a rock. So with so much difficulty, despite the difficulty, he can still go up the hill. So that's called persevere snail. Or for example, you uh, you want to go from point A to B, but there's a huge traffic in between, but you're despite the traffic, you're still going to go to point B. So you have to persevere about it. So it's used to emphasize something that you really want to go, or you want to get it, or you want to get from point A to B, or you just want to carry on. Okay. Scruple means someone who is in doubt, just normally when you're doubting someone. For example, you have a test tomorrow, but you're still having a doubt. Do you have a test? Do you not have a test? Okay. So actually, another word for calm means distress. Calm means something when you have fear. Okay. Fear and doubt are two different things. Fear and you have more thoughts, negative thoughts. So it's actually something which is negative. So another word for it is distress, which is also something which is negative. It's a word which is negative. The word wary means someone who is careful, for example, or alert. For example, you can see this guy is being alert. He might fall through here, through the hole. So you can see his face is quite wary of the situation. So another word for it is cautious. Like you're cautious of your environment, you're alert, you're actually on the lookout. Okay, so that's another word for wary. It means when you change a structure. For example, you can see the can is being distorted. It's the object is being changed. It's being formed, deformed. Okay, so another word for distort is deform. Okay, when an object is being changed. Okay, we can't say harm because we're not actually harming it. We're just changing its structure. That's the meaning of the word distort. Okay, the next word is sumptuous. Let's first discuss other meaning of these words. Okay, so first is delirious. Delirious is someone who is crazy, the one who's imagining stuff, the one who says that it's maybe if you can say witch, you can say that he can see witches or jinns, or someone who is actually mad. You can say another word for delirious is someone who's mad or crazy or imagining. Next is gorgeous. Gorgeous is a characteristic when you have to describe a person, like pretty. Another word for it is pretty. Beautiful. Perilous means someone who is who's doing stuff that's in danger. It's quite. See this guy. He's quite risk. It's what he's doing is quite risky. So another word for. Okay, so another word for it is called risky. Okay, he's taking actions that are quite risky. Okay, that are quite dangerous. So it is called perilous. Luxurious. Luxurious means someone who is wealthy, who is rich. So it's another word for it is also known as sumptuous. Okay, sumptuous and luxurious are the same meaning. It's wealthy, rich. Someone who is more rich, you can say is sumptuous. Okay, if you emphasize the word luxurious, we get the word sumptuous. Okay, reel. Okay, reel means when you, for example, when you have the fishing rod, this thing is called reel. It's when something, when you turn it again and again. That's why it's called the word reel. When you keep turning something and circular motion, that's called a reel. So another word for it is called whirl. Okay, we can't use the word fish. Fish is, it's actually, it's an object, it's an animal. We can't use the word fish. Reel is just, something you turn it in circular. Another word for it is called whirl. Inscrutable means something which is difficult to understand. Like, for example, you speak English and the word written is in Spanish. Okay, so you cannot understand what it is, or it's not something mysterious. You can't say the word mysterious. It's not something that you have to find out what it is. Okay, it's something which is totally difficult. You cannot understand a single word. Okay, so it is called. Another word for it is called difficult. Okay, the next word is appall. Appall means something that you're shocked in, like you're very you're having fear inside yourself, something which is negative. Okay, and this word is something negative. Okay, so it has to be delirious. We already explained it to you. It means someone who is crazy. It can't be delirious. Covered is when you cover something on top. Dismay, yes. So appall means, another word for appall is dismay. It means you are in shock. Okay, and confused, it can't be confused. Upright means someone that's respectful of someone who is well known, reputable as well, you can say the word. And obviously when someone is reputable, when someone is well known, it is also honorable. So we use the word upright as honorable as well. Okay, so you can see in the picture that she has won an award, so she's an honorable person. So just remember that upright means honorable. Others does not, it's not close to what it means. Reverie. Let's see, what do we have in here. We have the options. The first one is a palimpsest. Palimpsest is an old scripture, like the Bible. You can, if you have ever seen an old Bible, that's called a palimpsest. Palimpsest is basically an old scripture, like this old writings, this paper where the people used to write is called a this whole script is actually called a palimpsest, like the old version, like in Greek they used to write in this really old. They don't used to have the papers like we have right now. They used to have the older version of papers. That is called a palimpsest. Next word is phantom. Phantom is another word for ghost. When you see a ghost or something unusual, you can say phantom. I think I saw a phantom in the dark. You can say that. You can use that sentence. Now, daydream. Daydream is someone who, dreams or loss in thoughts. Curio. Curio means something which is antique. Like, if you go in the shop, you can see something which is unusual, which is something old, that's been used for centuries. It's mostly, in a museum. You can use the word, there are curios in the museum. So the another word for reverie is daydream. So the right answer is C. Reverie means daydream. It's another synonyms of it. Okay, loot. The word loot was actually an old word. It's used in the older time, the 18th, 19th century. Loot is, when there are wars going on and then there are the leftovers of war. Like, it could be the horses, it could be, their swords, their guns. Those are called the loots. Okay, another word for loot are called spoils. Okay, so loot and spoils are the same thing. So the right answer is spoils. Not waste. It's not a waste because you use it again, like the guns. The leftovers can be used again. It's not, you can't call them a waste, right? Loquacious means someone who is talkative, a person who keeps talking, too much. You can also use the word talkative, but this is more of a, if you want to emphasize that the person, it's talking like, nonstop, blah, blah, blah. So you use the word loquacious. Okay, chimera. Chimera is a Greek illusion. In Greek, they have this concept, a lion is attached with a goat, and then there's a serpent attached with it. There used to be stories of it. It's actually an illusion. So we use the word illusion in here. It's also same as chimera. Chimney. Chimney is, the one in the houses where smoke comes out of it. That's called chimney. Protest is when you strike. Okay, the meaning of panache means when you're confident, like you look at yourself in the mirror and then you give self reassurance to yourself. That's called a panache. Our next word is timidity. Timidity is someone who is bold, who has a lot of confidence, excessive confidence. So it has to be, what do you think it is? It can't be shyness, it can't be stupidity. Fearfulness is someone who has fear. So what do we have left? Audacity. Audacity is someone who is bold, who has full of confidence. Okay, timidity and audacity are the same meaning, synonyms of each other. Educe means to develop something, to create something, or to show your talent. It's actually like exposing your talent or developing something new. So another word for it is illicit. Illicit is a synonym of educe. Illicit and educe are the same thing, showing your talent or creating something new, something fresh, or out of the box, you can say. Naboo means someone who is wealthy, someone who is rich, who is a millionaire, someone who is powerful in the society. For example, Donald Trump, during his time as a president, he was quite powerful, right? So it's another word for it. It's also known as bigwig. You can just remember it as a person who is big, has a big wig. Donald Trump, I think, wears a wig, so you can remember it as bigwig. So it's a Donald Trump who is rich, powerful, and wealthy. Okay, doubter is someone who doubts. Frolic is, you mostly use this word when you're playing. For example, we can use a sentence: children are frolicking in the yard. Means they're playing very actively in the yard. We have converse. Converse means when you have a conversation. That's called conversation, when you are talking. And then we have pal. Pal means when you are satisfied. It's another word for it, also called satisfied. When you eat so much in excess that you became satisfied, that is called pal. So another word for it is called satiate. Satiate also means satisfied. Sacrosanct means a place where it has deep meaning, it has a value. It can be our beliefs, and it's also a place where it's respected. Like, for example, a prayer area is a sacrosanct place. So another word for it is sanctuary. Sanctuary and sacrosanct are the same meaning. Sanctuary is like the holy places. Like, for example, a temple could be a sanctuary, museums, whatever holds, strong beliefs. Louche. The first one we have is gauche. Gauche means someone who is shying away, a shy person with no confidence. Is when you do acts which are vulgar. Could be acts which are vulgar, which are rude, which are criminal. Any acts which you seem improper are called indecent acts. Okay. Another word for louche means also indecent. When you do, like I mentioned earlier, it means vulgar, criminal, actions which are ill-mannered, you can say. So louche and indecent are synonyms of each other. Now is stentorian. Stentorian is when a person speaks loudly. As you can see in the picture, girls speaking really loud. So stentorian means someone who is loud. Stealthy means someone who is hiding from someone. You know, you when a ninja comes into a house, they are quite stealthy. Means they are hiding or they're doing something secretive. Okay, those are called stealthy. Being cautious of your actions. You know, next we have antonyms, the opposites. Okay, so withdraw means you remove something from the bank. Those are called withdraw. Now, what is the opposite of it? Obviously, it would be the one which is you take earlier. So it would be advance. You took the money in advance. So the answer is advance. Secret is, you know, when you hide something, you don't tell anyone, you hide it. So secret and hidden are the same, are synonyms. So we have to cut this out. Covert means hiding something. It also means a secret. So since this is antonyms, we have to find opposite. So if something is hidden, obviously it has to be something which is open. So the answer is overt. Okay, we have heartfelt. Heartfelt is when you feel for someone. Like for example, when you're loving, this both are the same thing, heartfelt. Okay, so we have to find the opposite of it. If someone is sincere to you, okay, then what is the opposite? Insincere. So impartial means justice, equally, when you know when there's equal of law, justice. Hostile means someone who dislikes or shows aggressive behavior. It's a characteristic, you can say. Feeling of, you know, you don't feel like you like the person, or you can say unfriendly. That's the meaning of hostile. Bias means someone when you treat someone unequal. Like for example, if the court prefers this guy just because he's white, and this guy who is black, and then the court, you know, give justice that prefer the white guy, not justice, but you can say prefer the white guys based on his color, then that's called unbiased, when there's no justice. So if this is justice, this is justice, and so we have the opposite is bias. But if when we say unbiased, when we add the word unbiased with it, this word means justice. Bias, unjustice, and bias, unbiased means justice. It's quite confusing, but I think you have to remember this both, be aware of it. Next, we have luminous. Luminous means something that is light, lightning, or something that is bright. It's actually related with light, luminous. And then if we have something which is light, which is bright, what is the opposite? It will be this dark. So what is dark? Dark means dim. Another word for dark is also called dim. Brittle is something which is breakable. Like for example, when you have a stick and the stick breaks easily, that's called a brittle. The stick is brittle. We have another word, O. O means a feeling of respect mixed with fear or wonder. For example, you can use in the sentence, they gaze in awe at the small mountain of diamonds. For example, when someone gives you a birthday party, and then you go like, oh. So it's similar to that. You became in an awe. You became a feeling of mixed wonder, right? And fear as well, like the fear of the unknown, like you were shocked. Yeah, so the opposite is contempt. It's contempt. It's a feeling of disappointment, a feeling of worthlessness, or something with respect. There's a feeling of disappointment. A pit means something as a hole. This thing is called a pit, the deep hole, a pit of the ground. So what do you think is the opposite of pit? It will be the top part. The top part is also known as peak. Okay, so we have pit and peak. Rutown. Rutown is someone that is round and chubby. Okay, so we can't select round, right? Because it is a synonym. So we can't select this. Unimportant is not related with it. It's not close to it. So if someone is round, then the opposite will be someone who is thin, right? So the answer is thin. Talent. Talent it's quite easy. It's something, when you have a talent of, if you have a talent of playing an instrument, or if you have a talent of arts. So when you have a talent, right, what do you think is the opposite? A person who doesn't have a talent, right? So what do you call that person? It's called inability. Okay, so when he doesn't have any talent, we call him, we say that he has an inability to perform arts, right? Brazen. Brazen is someone who is bold, the one who has confidence, like just like this girl, she seems quite bold, right? Bashful is someone who is shy, has no confidence at all. Now, boisterous is also, it also means brazen. It's another word for being bold. Noisy means someone who makes noise. Heated is something, you heat something. So what is the opposite of brazen? If someone is bold, another one will be shy. So shy is also bashful. So brazen opposite is bashful. Expect is, for example, you expect your friend to come over, or you expect your teacher to be in class by 10 a.m. Okay, when you expect something. So when you expect something, what is the opposite of it? When it doesn't show up, you became in despair. Okay, expect and despair. Okay, we don't say we regret it. Regret is something on a personal level. Okay, personal level. Expect is when you expect someone. It's like another person. You expect there's like a two-person. Expect someone or something. Regret is something which you regret personally. You don't expect anyone. It's not just because you're regretful. It doesn't necessarily mean someone made you regretful. But expect is, when you wait for someone. So the opposite of is expect is a despair. Okay, just like how this girl got quite disappointed that her friend didn't show up. Odorous is something smelly. Okay, when someone it has a strong smell or an evil smell or foul smell. Stinky. Acrid is something also which is related with negative smell. Pungent is a similar word. Pungent, it's mostly used in chemistry when there's pungent smell or strong smell. So if the smell is something which is negative, what do we have? We have fragrant. Same like we have in picture in here. Fragrance. It's fragrance actually related with flowers, fragrance. So malodorous, and the opposite is fragrant. Expound. Expound means to explain. You can see this boy is explaining him whatever is in this board. So when someone is explaining, what do we have the opposite? Condemn means you stop it, or I don't teach forward. Okay, condemn. Peak. Peak is something you can see from the girl's face. She's quite annoyed, right? So when someone is quite annoyed, what do we have the opposite? Soothe. Okay, someone who is annoyed, noisy and all, and someone who's smooth, soothing. Abate. Abate of something unpleasant or severe becomes less intense or widespread. The storm suddenly abated. Okay, it's something which has become less intense. That's why I made this arrow down. It means it's becoming less severe. Okay, now augment. Augment means she took a second job to augment her income. It means to increase her income. So we can say, you can see that abate is something which decrease the intensity. Augment is something which increase in intensity. So it could be her income, her cars, whatever it could be. It's something that's related with increase. Okay, so if abate is something which decrease, what do we have? Yes, wane. Wane also means abate. It's another word for decrease as well. So if abate means decrease, what is for the increase one? We have augment. Augment is the synonym. Okay. Dirt. Dirt means when you have less in quality, or you're in and you're about. It also means poverty, since this is not synonyms. This is antonym. So if it's something which is in less amount, and when you have an huge amount, what do we use the word? Abundance. Abundance means you have a lot. You have abundance of wealth. You have abundance of cars. You have a lot of cars. Abundance of free time. Peak is someone who is pale, like when when you're tired or when you're sick, right? People ask you, why is your face quite pale? It's washed away. It's like quite dead. You're not alive. It's the opposite of feeling alive. So that's another word for pale is also peak. You look quite peaked today. So if someone peaked, who is peak, what will be the opposite? It can't be tired. Tired is the same thing as peak. It can't be arrogant. Arrogant has to do with characteristics. Pointy, it's something you point out. Ruddy. Now, ruddy means someone who is chubby, who has red cheeks. Okay, those are called ruddy. Person who is lively. So we have peak as the one, someone who is sick, who looks dull, and then we have ruddy, someone who is bright, happy. Meager is when you have less amount, inadequate amount, or you're short or insufficient, short in money, you know. So when you're short in money, what is the opposite? You're in abundance, right? Like you have a lot of money. So another word for it is also called copious. For example, we can say he attended his lectures and took copious notes. Copious means he took a lot of notes. It means a person who is guided by materialism and is usually disdainful of intellectual or artistic values. It means a person who is more into materialism, a person who likes objectivism, a person who doesn't like art, you know, or intellectual values. So if a person who likes materialistic stuff, what will be the opposite? A person who likes intellectual stuff. So this is the antonym. Novice means a beginner. Okay, when a person is beginning to learn rock climbing, he's a beginner. Then it's mostly used in astrology. It's the highest point from the observer, okay, from the person, the highest point, and nadir is the lowest point. So we have zenith, the opposite would be nadir. Apex also means zenith, it's also the top part. So apex and zenith are the same thing, basically. Germane. Let's see this example. The president will only respond to media questions that are germane to the economic crisis. So what does it mean? Germane means that are related to the economic crisis. For example, the president, right? He'll only answer to the media those who ask questions that are relevant to economic crisis. So if we have germane, it means relevant, to the point, specific. It also means specific. So the opposite would be irrelevant, which are not related to the topic. Indifferent, I've taught you earlier, indifferent means not giving your own opinions, being neutral. Impartial means justice. Improvident means being silly, or you can say being clumsy, careless. Okay, improvident means careless. Irascible. Irascible is someone who is annoyed, who is feeling angry, who is feeling mad on any situation or circumstance. So if someone is annoyed, the opposite would be placid. Placid means someone who is calm, smooth. Pliant means pliant is not related with it. Pliant means when you bend something or when you influence something. Approbate. Approbate means to agree. Agree formally. For example, when we say a letter approbating the affair, the letter gives them an approval, formal approval of the affair. So if someone gives an approval, what will be the opposite? The opposite will be to condemn, means to disagree. Okay, dissatisfaction means dislike. It's related with a characteristic of a person. Okay, when you're dissatisfied. So condemn means not agree. Okay, so approbate opposite is condemn. Supercilious. Supercilious means someone who is arrogant, who is rude, who is a show off. If someone is show off and who is rude, the opposite would be someone who is kind. Okay, so we could also use the word meek. Meek is someone who is quiet, who is gentle, easily imposed on submissive. Like for example, a dog, we can say the dog is quiet, is a meek. My dog is meek. So you can say my dog is submissive. My dog is quiet, gentle. Improvident. Improvident is someone that's careless, carefree, and someone who is also silly, you can say. So if someone is careless, the opposite would be cautious. A person who is improvident, who is not caring. A person who is cautious is a person who is careful, who is aware. So the opposite is cautious. Demure. Demure is someone who objectifies. Like you can see the group of people, they're protesting, they're objectifying, whatever the case is, whatever the circumstance is. So if someone is objectifying, the opposite would be to embrace. Fatuous is being silly. It also means inane. Another word for fatuous is inane. So the opposite would be sensible. A person who is sensible, intelligent, the one who's having senses, right? So the opposite of it would be fatuous, someone who's doing silly. Quiescent. Temporarily quiet and not active. For example, you can say birds in the winter are inactive, or you can say the squirrels in the winter are quiescent because they're not normally as active as they are in the summers, right? They're mostly dormant in the winter. So we can say quiescent. It's temporarily quiet and not active. So what would be the opposite? Obviously, it would be active. Sartorial. Sartorial is clothes, you can say, that are tailored. Those are the ready-made. Okay, those are sartorial clothes. Like for example, the suit, we can say his suit is sartorial. So if someone which is made in a factory, or the one which is already handmade, which are already made in the shop, are called sartorial. What would be the opposite? Opposite would be homespun. Homespun is when you make it yourself. It's like homemade, right? You make it with your own hands in the home for your personal use. But this one's like made in a factory, the suit. So we say it's sartorial, the one which are made in a factory. It's already made. Homespun is when you made it at home. Sapient is a wise man, clever man, a man who has, good knowledge. He has a lot of knowledge. And so if it's a person who has a lot of knowledge, what would be the opposite? The opposite would be a simple man who doesn't know much, right? Hunch means when you take forward. Like for example, you could see this man leaning forward. This thing is called a hunch when he's leaning forward. Simian is a type of a monkey. It's a type of ape. Matutinal means something that happens in the morning. For example, when we say his matutinal jog, it means he's jogging in the morning. Okay. Paternal means something related with his father. For example, Jessica's received her paternal inheritance from when her father died. So it has paternal mostly related to the father's side. Okay, paternal is the father's side, maternal is from the mother's side. Crepuscular. Crepuscular is something that happens in the evening. Okay, the crepuscular sunset. Say maritime. Maritime is something related to the sea. So for example, when we say maritime museum, it means a museum full of sea stuff. Like it could be sea creatures, it could be ships, anything that's associated with the sea. Marsupial. Marsupial is a type of mammal, the one which they keep their young under a pouch, where they live under a pouch of their young. It could be a kangaroo, it could be several other animals as well, like a koala bear, where the young ones are kept on the mother's pouch. Those are called marsupial animals. Impecunious. Impecunious means having little or no money. So when you have less money, what do you think would be the opposite? Yes, it would be wealthy, person who is wealthy. Tardy means late. Okay, when you reply someone late, for example, you say, please forgive this tardy reply. If you don't want to use the word late, you can use the word tardy. Mostly people use late, but it's a good way to use the word tardy so you can remember it. Okay, so that's the end for today's lecture. Please subscribe and give a like. I'll be releasing part 2 soon, very soon. So do subscribe, and if you have any questions, just leave in the comments.